Respiration and voicing. When air is made to move out of the lungs, we say there is an aggressive pulmonic airstream. All speech sounds are made with some movements of air. How air is moved in and out of the lungs? The lungs are like sponges that can fill with air, and they are contained within the rib cage. If the rib cage is lifted upwards and outwards, there is more space in the chest for the lungs, and they expand, with the result that they take in more air. If we allow the rib cage to return to its rest position quite slowly, some of the air is expelled and can be used for producing speech sounds. And we wish to make the aggressive pulmonic airstream continue without breathing in again. For example, when saying a long sentence and not waiting to be interrupted. We can make the rib cage press down on the lungs so that more air is expelled. To make speech sounds, we must obstruct the airflow in some way. Breathing by itself makes very little sound. We obstruct the airflow by making one or more obstructions or strictures in the vocal tract. And one place where we can make a stricture is in the larynx, by bringing the vocal folds close to each other. If the vocal folds vibrate, we will hear the sound that we call voicing or phonation. Next, different variations in the vocal folds for different voicing. First, variations in intensity. We produce voicing with high intensity for shouting, for example, and with low intensity for speaking quietly. Second, variations in frequency. If the local folds vibrate rapidly, the voicing is at high frequency. If there are fewer vibrations per second, the frequency is lower. And last, variations in quality. We can produce different sounding voice qualities, such as those we might call harsh, pretty, murmured, or creaky. Fortis and leanness. The voiceless plosives PTK are sometimes called fortis, meaning strong, and BDG are then called leanness, meaning weak. It might well be true that PTK are produced with more force, though nobody has really proved it. Force of articulations is very difficult to define and measure. The plosive phonemes of English can be present in the form of a table as shown here. First, fortis or voiceless. P. Bilabial. T. Alveolar. K. Velar. Leanness voiced. B. Bilabial. D. Alveolar. And G. Velar.
Hello everyone, my name is Eliana Nur Artika Putri, and in this part I will explanation about plosive and English plosive. Let's get it. What is plosive? Plosive is consonant articulation and have four characteristics. There are Next is English plosive. English plosive has 6 plosive consonants. There are P, T, K, B, D, and G. The glottal plosive occurs frequently, but it's of less importance. It usually just an alternative pronunciation of P, T, and K in certain contexts. Plosive have different places of articulation. For the example, P and B are bilabial, since the lips press together, and T and D are alveolar since the tongue blade press against the alveolar ridge. All 6 plosives can occur at beginning of word, between other sounds, and at the end of word. First is initial position. The closing pass for P, T, K, B, D, and G takes place silently. During the compression phase, there is the voicing in P, T, K, B, D, and G is normally very little voicing. It begins only just before the release. The release of P, T, and K is followed by audible plosive, that is a burst of noise. There is then in the post-release phase a period during which air escapes through the vocal folds, making a sound like H, and this is called aspiration. The release of B, D, and G is followed by wiplosion, and this happens at about the same or shortly time after the beginning of voicing. Second is medial position. The pronunciation of P, T, K, B, D, and G in medial position depends to some extent on whether the syllables preceding and following the plosive are stressed. And the last is final position. Final B, D, and G normally have little voicing. At the beginning of the compression phase, P, T, and K are always voiceless. The plosive following the release of P, T, K, B, D, and G is very weak and often not audible. The difference between P, T, K, B, D, and G is primarily the fact that vowels preceding P, T, and K are much shorter. Okay friends, that's presentation from Group 4. Thanks for your attention and sorry for our mistakes. Bye-bye.